Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting for Thursday, December 1st, 2022. First of all, we have one member that is not here today. Greg Booth is not here, but he has advised that he will be in on Zoom. So, Greg, I know you're there. Thank you very much for joining us. We have CAO Roy Gilmore, our treasurer, our clerk, Pat Kemp, and deputy clerk, Yolanda Melbourne, with us today. So I'll call this meeting to order at 12:35. And before I start, I would just like to mention that at our planning meeting on November 24th, negative remarks were made towards a member of staff. And I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly apologize on behalf of all of council for those comments. Our staff are extremely professional, highly regarded and valued, not only at North Allen and Calderwood, but also throughout the municipal community. Next, we'll have the territorial land acknowledgement. Before our meeting gets underway, I would like to formally recognize the traditional keepers of the land, and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation, with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge that the township of Alderville is located on the Mississaugan and Anishinaabe territory and is a territory of the Mississaugan Anishinaabe. The township of Alderville respectfully acknowledges that the Mississaugan Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and the integrity of generations to come. I'd like to now take a minute to acknowledge the sign for our fallen soldiers and citizens. We'll take a moment of silence. Thank you. Number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof. Any council member have anything that they must disclose today? Seeing none, that will be duly noted. Approval of the amendment as circulated. Be resolved that the agenda for the regular council session of Thursday, December 1st, 2022 be approved and as amended. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Stover, Councillor Ainsworth. Are there any addendums?
Yes, for Jennifer's report as part of the addendum.
Okay. Yes, we have one addition, and that's a report from our treasurer. And that's
Senior planner.
Oh, senior planner. Okay, senior planner. Sorry, and that will be discussed later on. All in favor? That's carried. Business arising from the previous minutes. Did you first have a mover and a second? Oh,
There's no minutes, sorry.
there is no.
There's no minutes.
Okay.
Caught in a time crunch. Yeah.
Okay, so there's probably no business.
No.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to department reports. First of all, we have report from Brian McMillan, Manager of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, dated today, December 21st, 2022. And the first report is the overage report. Brian, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor Logo, members of council. Yes, you have the report before you and the recommendation. I can answer any questions if you have with that report.
Any questions for members of council? Greg, do you have any?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna read the motion. Be it resolved that the council of the township of Elmwood Haldeman receive and file the managers of Public Works Park and Recreation Department overage report. All in favor? Mover and seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Further questions? All in favor? Carried. Next, we have a report from Brian McMillan, Manager of Public Works, Parks and Recreation, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding departmental update. Sir, you have the floor.
Yes, again, Mayor Logo, members of council, this is usually a monthly report I try to bring you is the first meeting of the month, and this is just to highlight activities that have been completed in the Public Works and Parks and Recreation department, and it also sometimes mentions future projects. It just highlights some of the activities that go on and what staff are doing during between the council meetings, before and after council meetings. So again, it's just a highlight of an overview of some of the activities. So if you ever get asked, by residents what's going on, it kind of gives you an idea what the Public Works Department's been up to. So I'll kindly entertain any questions that you have with the report they have before you.
Comments from? Go ahead, Commissioner Stover.
Yes, Brian, I just had a question. Are you still thinking December 22nd, the facility is going to be open? The new facility?
Yes, that's the plan. We're hoping that we'll have the contract will be done, and it looks like there's only couple of things. There's the doors for some of the offices are not scheduled to be in until January 9th, I believe. But we can get by with the office doors not being on, but it was for a couple of the washroom facilities, the contractor had a couple doors that he was able to install on the bathrooms, so they're on there now. And then we're just working on that's the major things, but our goal is to have occupancy just prior to the kind of the Christmas break. Now, in saying that, because the cold weather did come on us there a few weeks ago, and the contractor get in and put the base coat of asphalt on all the Public Works parking lot. So next year, there will be coming back to put the top lift of asphalt in better temperatures, so that we'll have a nicer end product of the asphalt. So again, as far as occupancy, that is the plan, that will be in there before the Christmas break.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? I guess I have one too, Brian. We were over last Tuesday at the new trail, and it looks good, and people are using it on a regular basis, so I'm really happy to see that. And I was a little bit concerned about how we would stop other than motor vehicles, or stop motor vehicles being on there, because it does get about something there. But our CAO is advised that you're going to put fences up at the ends of those so you can stop and open them up, and I think that's a great idea. So that's my comment. One other, I'll just ask if Councillor Booth has any comments.
Yes, through you, your worship. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just through you, just two questions for Brian. Brian, you changed the signs at Wicklow. Which signs were they? Were they the ones that are on the road or actually in the parking lot area?
Yes, through you, our Mayor Logo. Yes, Councillor Booth, there was two different ones, or three. There was a two-sided or two separate signs on the road sign telling you to turn in off of Wicklow to go on the boat launch. Those ones were both replaced from the direction come from the east and west. But then there also was the one by the kind of the big rock kind of in the parking lot. There was a big 4x8 sign. It was replaced as well. So I I think that was kind of been on council's list for a year or two now. But anyways, they were replaced. They look good. So yeah, both of them were done.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. And just one other question through you, your worship, to Brian is, Brian, we had talked about it a few months ago about is Bowmanton Road going to be graded or something before the winter hits? There was complaints about the potholes or something.
Yeah, again, through you, Mayor Logel, yes, Councilor Booth, that section just southwest of the donkey farm down through there is a really bad section, and staff are actually patching that today. So we're gonna do our best to do some patching with some coal mix and maybe even a greater patch, so some coal mix spread across that will level it for the winter months to get us through the winter, and then we'll address that again in the early probably May or June of 2023. But it is rough, and we are trying to get it fixed up as best we can before the real freeze up.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Councilor Ainsworth?
Thank you, your worship. I just, can Brian, can you explain service requests?
Yes, again, through your Mayor Logel, yes, Councilor Ainsworth. So there's a couple different ways a resident can I call them a service request. You know, sometimes they're not complaints, but they're requests from residents about their culvert or entrance culvert being blocked or standing water in their ditch. You know, back 10 years ago, we started talking about the West Nile and all that stuff. So requests come in like that, either through the main office down in Grafton, which there's a form they can fill out that I know a few of you know about, and then also through our Public Works number through a receptionist, and they come in through a software program that will go out, look at, to get back to the person and come up with a plan. So I just kind of call them service requests, Councilor Ainsworth. They could be various things, are requesting us looking at the speeding on the road, a hidden entrance sign, ditching, big as the ash trees, emerald ash disease and all that. So that's the kind of service requests I'm kind of mentioning in the report.
Thanks, Brian. And we really, I want to speak on behalf of staff, but I think the one where you can use electronically, the comments in complete form is probably the best way for residents to make us aware of any issues that they may have. And that can go to any department, really. Okay.
Sorry,
Pardon me?
Brian had his hand up.
Oh, Brian, go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor Logel, members of council. I just wanted to just elaborate a little bit more on your comments about the paved accessible trail around the Grafton Community Center. Yeah, we do got to come up with a permanent solution because we are maintaining it during the winter months. So there is a pickup truck with a plow on it, cleaning the pathway off. But we will come up with some kind of removal barricade that can be, pulled out and reinstated after we plow it. And there still is, just so you know, there is still some fine tuning of the trail, some more trees trimmed up. Again, I'll be bringing back a report on, some future benches put along the trail for pedestrians and that to stop and take a break. And then further that is actually connecting it better to the current existing trail that goes through the woods. We got to do some work in there as well. So it's there, but there is some fine tuning that needs to happen to make it, 100% complete. That's
fine. And those benches are probably for nobody like me that connected all the way around. But I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any further questions? I'm going to read the motion then. That be resolved that the Council of the Township of Allen Calderman receive and file the Managers of Public Works, Parks and Recreation Department's update report. I have a move in a second for that. Moved by Mayor Catherine and seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Further discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Next, we move on to Parks and Recreation Department. Report 8-1 from Jennifer Steen, Parks, Recreation and Culture Coordinator, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding departmental update. Jennifer, you're on today?
Yes. Hello.
Okay. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Logo and members of council. So this report is just a monthly update on programs, events, and facility usage. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Members of council?
To you, Mary Lou. Jennifer, I wanted to thank you for the time you spent with me yesterday afternoon. I know it's getting close to your time, but thank you for that. And you went into detail your programming hours at the arena and at the community centers. And I was really impressed with the programs that are being run out of the arena. And as well at the community centers. And Jennifer and I have talked, and she's going to do a breakdown for us for next month. And I guess next month, geez, January. So Jennifer is going to provide the usage at the facilities. And it was quite interesting when we started to add up the usages for the arena at the moment. We put down for the month between 500 and 600 users, which could be low. So Jennifer is going to fine tune that. So I thank you for that, Jennifer. And that was a great job. And thanks for the conversation yesterday.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Logo. I did, just for your information, after our discussion yesterday, Deputy Mayor Stover, you can see on the usage there that we had about 367 users for our programs at the arena. And then I went back and looked at our numbers for our regular user groups. So those are our regular leagues that rent the arena. And so the number is actually closer to 800. So 817 users for the month of November at the arena, because we have about 15 people per league. So that's roughly 90 users per week, regular users through leagues.
And to your memory, if I just say that I wasn't aware of the programs. It was public skating, obviously, but there's adult shinny, adult exercise skate, which are only getting skates on. Parent taught, Jennifer is trying to see where we can add up, get more people going for that. But the youth sticks and puck, which is on Thursdays, has 89 kids in it. So, and Jennifer's thinking she'd like to maybe bring in another group of that, but I look forward to all your reports for next month. And thanks again, Jennifer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I would like to comment, echo what you said, and maybe talk a little bit more about the programming offered by the community centers. That's really shot up from what I can recall. I know that perhaps this month has been, no, it really hasn't dropped off for this month. So it looks good, and I continue to encourage you to keep the buildings busy. Any further comments from council? I'll read the motion.
Councillor Booth.
Oh, Councilor Booth?
Sorry, your mayor. I know it's hard to see me up here in the corner. Through you, your worship, just a question to Jennifer. Jennifer, the arena, when it talks about the total rental hours and the total programming hours, so is that Monday to Sunday, right in the morning when it opens till it closes, those hours? Or because it's deceiving, right? If it shows, for example, in November, we had 130 hours and we only rented it out a quarter of the time, almost a quarter, just a little bit more. Maybe you can answer that question first before I make the comment.
Sure, through you, Mayor Logo. So the total rented hours are rented hours through either leagues or an individual renting the ice for their use. And then our programming hours are hours that we are offering our drop-in programs. So those are the public skates, the shinnies, the adult exercise skate, and the youth stick and puck. So you're correct, those hours are the ones that are actually used throughout the week, and that's not, it doesn't show you out of how many available hours. So if you'd like, next in my update reports going forward, I could include, you know, for instance, 130 hours rented out of the total hours available.
Yeah, that would be helpful because that number really right there doesn't tell us too much. What I'd be interested to know is how many rentable hours there are for the arena and how many of those rentable hours are actually being booked. And you might even, Jennifer, have to look at it because I know historically in arenas from 7 a.m. until 4, there's very few rentals because kids are at school. So you'll get some stick and puck or, you know, more small programs, but I'm more interested in the 4 p.m. to the 12 at night. Those are the prime hours. And how many of those hours are actually being rented? And if possible, also, Jennifer, I know that would include Sunday because Sunday the arena is open, but Saturday it's not open unless it's rented. Is that still true? Saturday is not open unless there's a private rental for it to.
Through you, Mayor Logo. Sorry, I was just looking at my calendar. Correct. So Saturdays are available and for rentals, and they're usually we have tournaments on the Saturdays. So we have X amount of tournaments booked through for the year. I don't have that number in front of me. And then available for birthday parties. We did a number of birthday parties through the month of November, and then any other rentals. So I'm definitely promoting that it's available for rent on Saturdays. And as user groups come to me looking for those prime time hours between 4 p.m. and I'd say 11 p.m., we're pretty much full during the week. And I do try to push them to Saturdays if they're able to make those Saturdays work.
Yeah, that's good. That's good information because if we know the prime time hours from 4 to 11 are almost all booked like 90% or 95%, that shows the arena is getting a lot of use prime time. I would be interested to know how many Saturdays we are offering and how many we have booked in advance. Like if there's 24 Saturdays we're offering, if 20 of them are already booked or whatever, that would be helpful information for council. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment, I know the parking lot was full on Saturday, this past weekend, it must have been turned or something. That's good to see. Jennifer, if I look at the November hours, there's 130 hours of rental plus the programming hours. And it sounds like most of that 45 hours is for rental, pardon me, not rental, but ice usage. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So you have to add the 2 hours together to determine really how much the ice is being used. Okay. So I'm going to read the motion. And that is be resolved the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Report from Jennifer Steen, coordinator dated December 1st, 2022, to receive and file. I have a mover and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Stover, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover and Councillor Ainsworth. Any questions or further comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have another report from Jennifer Steen, Parks and Recreation and Cultural Coordinator, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding an OTF grant. Go ahead, please.
Thank you for your Mayor Logo. So you can see in the background of the report, earlier this year, we received a Ontario Trillium Foundation grant. One of the portions of that grant was to spend $60,000 on outdoor fitness equipment. And it's my recommendation in this report that we accept the attached quote from Blue Imp and purchase the outdoor fitness equipment.
Thank you. Questions from council? Councillor O'Neill?
I read in your report that you have taken it through the committee, but will there be an opportunity for the general public to get, and people living in the neighborhood to give feedback or input into this?
Through you, Mayor Logo. Currently, we don't have anything set up for public input into this quote received. So yes, I did speak with members of the Northumberland Parks and Rec Working Group, and then with the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee on narrowing it down. If we'd like to get public input, that's something we could do. This quote is valid until really it's dated to today, and price increase may come into effect, but that's something we can definitely do.
To you, Mayor Logo. I know when I was campaigning, and that was one of the things that the community said, if we receive funding, they'd like to be involved, and even made the suggestion that this might be something they would want to support, not necessarily this one, but they'd like the opportunity to build upon what we were already doing as council and staff.
I remember to my last tenure being very excited about this, I call it animal exercise. And some of the more updated campsites are starting to put these in. So I really applaud the project and look forward to seeing it in place. And I guess the next question is, Mr. CAO, you mentioned the placement of it, which would be up for discussion at some time.
Yes, if council wishes, I'd like to see this approved, and then maybe Jennifer can involve, the location over at the park, whether it be over where the existing playground is or to the, just outside the right field fence. So I just hate to, take an opportunity and, miss this current price where it could raise up drastically, who knows, right? So if we can maybe get this approved, and then Jennifer can deal with, put something out on our Let's Talk and just location wise or something like that maybe.
Thank you. I'll make a comment on it, continuing on with Deputy Mayor Stover said. I remember too, when we were looking at that equipment, and I can't get over the price of getting this stuff for as compared to the other ones. I think we've got about 3 or 4 apparatuses for your $50,000 versus I believe I counted 9. I think there was the starting of this, which is pretty impressive. So I'm excited to see it. Any further comments or questions for Jennifer? Okay, I'll read the motion. We resolve the Council of the Township of Alan Colvin receive and file the OFP grant outdoor fitness equipment purchase, and looks like we're looking for to go ahead and make the purchase today.
Yes, so if the council are in favor, then you would give approval for us.
Okay, I'll read the motion. If I have read the motion, I have moved and seconded to that. Deputy Mayor Stoller, seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Would you like to add anything on to that? Mayor?
Just one more thing, Mayor Lobo, I noticed that the grant was for $98,500 and we're spending $60,000. So Jennifer shared with me 2 other programs that she was going to be running. They aren't included in this, what we're dealing with now, but could it be mentioned, would you be able to share that, Jennifer? Is it, soon to mention it?
I'm sorry, I just had a difficulty hearing you, Deputy Mayor Stover. Could you repeat your question?
Yes, would you be able to share at this time, we have $60,000 that we're using for this, construction of this, outdoor fitness equipment. Your grant is for $98,500. You had shared with me the other two, programs that you were looking at for, operational programs that you're going to be running. Would you be able to add anything to that now, or is it too soon?
Sorry, is the other programs or the other amounts that are being spent. So there's an amount to do renovations for the reception areas at the Haldeman Memorial Arena and the Alnwick Civic Center. And then there's money earmarked for purchasing a booking software for program registration and rentals. And then some of the other money is earmarked for overhead and administrative costs. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry, I had a hard time at the end hearing you as well.
No, that answered my question. I thought it was interesting, and council would be interested in where else you're spending the $38,500.
I think what we're asking for right now in this motion is for the $57,000.
60.
So 60, okay. And if you were going to add that to the motion then, 60,000, it's not in there right now, but you'll add that. That would be good.
The 60,000 is what Jennifer is utilizing for the equipment. That's what the council will have before them to approve. Yes.
Yeah. Good. Any comments or further discussions regarding the motion? Catherine?
I still would like to see us seek some public input. I think if we had a 2-week window, we could probably maintain these costs if we requested them. And it would give an opportunity for public feedback.
To you, Mayor Lovell, with that 60,000, does it include installation?
No, yes. If you want to go in?
Yes, through you, Mayor Local, that includes site preparation and installation.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, I have a motion on the floor, moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. I'll repeat it. We approved that be resolved the Council of the Township of Alamo will receive and file the OFT grant outdoor fitness equipment purchase. All in favor?
That council approved the vote.
And further, the council approved the quote of approximately 60,000. All in favor? Can't see Councilor Booth, but I'm assuming, well, it doesn't matter who was in favor. All in favor, so it's carried.
To you, Mayor Lobo, is there going to be an opportunity for the public? Are we going to allow the public to have input on this?
My understanding of this is that we will go back and find out where you put it, but this is what we approved is to purchase this. Okay. And Roy will see that that's done. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. We're going to move on to item 9.1 and building and planning department. There's a report from Darrell Hall, CBO and MBEO and / planning assistant dated December 1st, 2022 regarding the building permit summary of November 22nd. Darrell, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're coming up there.
Good. Well, Good afternoon, Mayor Logo and council. Through you, your worship, this is my monthly report I do for the building department that I've done in the past for previous council. It just gives you guys a breakdown and an update of how many permits we've issued, how many was in the process of being issued. It gives you a breakdown on the money we bring in with those permits and where it goes to. And then it carries on the other pages to break down a summary of what permits we've issued, like whether they're single family dwellings or decks and so on, and storage sheds and stuff. So it gives you a good breakdown and a 3-year comparison on that. And then it goes on to give a 3-year comparison of our monthly, how many we do per month, and how many we've done per month in 2022 of those permits. So yeah, if anybody has any questions or wants anything to added or subtracted to the monthly report, or feel free to ask. I can answer any questions on it that they have.
Members of council, Council Rangel.
To you, Mayor Lobo. I'm just wondering how many permits we have out there that have been granted but not used, if this report encompasses that. So, for instance, if we've got, say we've had 300 permits being okayed in the last 3 years, how many of them are left to have anything built on them?
Okay, you're asking for severance?
No, just for the ones that are all done. So, if people have got their severance, but they haven't built on the property, and I just want to.
You're referring specifically to severances. You're not talking about demolitions or anything else. You're specifically asking about.
Yes, how many severances do we have out there that have been awarded, that are still sitting there without they no home, you know?
Cool.
Can you respond to that, or?
I can't really, that would be more for Jennifer to answer how many severances we've had. As far as building permits being issued on those severances, I think in the 10 years I can recall here, there's been, as far as houses go, if that's what you're asking, Councillor Ainsworth, there's been one house issued, I think back in 2011, 2012, since I've been here, that was not started. Everything else, as far as dwelling goes, and been issued, they've been substantially started, occupied, or still on the go from the last couple of years.
I did, just to comment, Councillor, I did see a question that one of our individuals who ran for mayor was asking different townships, and he asked Councillor, pardon, the township Hamilton, and he got some type of answer, and our staff couldn't answer it at the time. So it's probably a good question that we should take a look at and see if somehow we can't get an answer to it, especially with the building push that the province is putting on us. So it probably would be a good thing to get the answer.
Yeah. Thanks, Daryl.
Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
Through you, Mayor Logal. These numbers that we're seeing here, these are the permits that are being opened, is that correct? Do we have any tracking of permits that are then closed, or are these the ones that are being closed during these months?
So these are the ones that are open for the year. And the way we track them being closed, I can add a track line if you'd like. They are closed through our software system. We would just have to go down through the software system and see which permit is, occupied for a dwelling or finalized on a deck, and so on and so forth for each one. And I can certainly add a close line to the permits. Now, I can tell you, there's lots of permits out there that aren't closed from previous years as well. So it would do quite a bit of research, but we'd be going back. I mean, and we're not unique. I know other building departments have the same thing in other municipalities, but there's permits that aren't closed from back even 2000. out there. But we could certainly add a line if council wishes to update them on what permits have been closed this year. And as far as these 167 that have been opened.
Go ahead, Councilor Neal.
I'm just curious, I know it did arise in one circumstance where a building had started to be built and then it basically looked like they ran out of money or something that was sitting there. So the neighbors were asking me and I'm shrugging my shoulders going, well, I don't know anything on that. But is that something that was a unique circumstance or is that something you're hearing about from residents?
It does happen. The way the building code looks at it is from a building code point of view, if a permit isn't substantially started in 6 months, like a project, you can revoke it. You don't have to revoke it. There's no shall in there. It's you may revoke it. A permit's good for a year in the building code, but if they're still working on it, you just keep it open and follow through the process of the inspection stages to make sure it comes to some kind of substantial completion to close that off. We've had a few the past couple of years, yeah, with COVID and material and stuff getting more expensive. They've looked like they've stood still a little bit, but hopefully they'll move forward here in the future.
Further questions? I think, first of all, go back to Mike. Mike made the, if you want to make a motion that staff investigate and find out to the best of their ability how many registered lot that have been made. Can you help me with that?
Yeah, I wanted to ask how many newly created lots have been constructed on.
Constructed on and maybe so maybe how many have not been. It's really what we're, is that right?
Yes, your worship.
Okay, so you make the motion then?
Yes. So I'd like to make a motion that if staff could give us a report on how many severances have been granted and still haven't been, had a dwelling put on.
Well, okay, sir. Can I have a second for that motion? Or want a second?
Can you repeat it again, John? He broke up. Sorry, Mike.
So the motion was to ask staff if they could give us a report on the amount of severances that have been granted in the past few years that haven't had dwellings built on to date.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Councilor Deputy Mayor Gilbert.
I just wanted to clarify, should there be a timeline for this? So the building department isn't going back 10 years because there has been quite a few. So I'm just wondering, clarify, do you want to go back 1 year or 2 years?
Say 4 years.
4 years? Since the past calendar month. How's that? Is that okay with you? Do I get a second here for that then? Councilor Booth, you still there?
Yeah,
You understand the
yeah,
motion?
I heard it. Yeah, I heard it. I know Daryl wanted to make a comment before somebody seconds it, maybe.
Okay, Daryl, you there?
Actually, my comment, Deputy Mayor Stover, basically was my comment. I was just curious because we could go back to 1997 when there was a severance and the house still hasn't been built on it, right? So I just wanted to know how far back we wanted to go for finding out which lots were severed and which, you know, that has been constructed forward on. So Deputy Mayor Deputy Mayor, sorry, Stover looked after my comment. So thank you.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Silver, you had your hand up to second that?
I could second that.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Motion is carried. And Councillor, motion for.
No, I was just being curious and asking a question.
Thank you.
Just one more thing, Mayor Lobo, Carol, how many reports do you give to council in a month? You mentioned that this is your building report. Do you give us another report where you're covering the complaints that you're dealing with? And I had sent Daryl an email yesterday, and I was just wondering if we get another report which is more detailed on other items that he's handling in his office. So are we going to get another report at the December 15th meeting that would encompass those items?
Yeah, so I'm through you, your worship. I apologize, Deputy Mayor Stover, you break up a little bit here. So what I think you're asking, it was the same as what you emailed me and asking about a bylaw report. Yes, I will have a full bylaw report with a breakdown of how many complaints and how many concerns were received throughout 2022, and which complaint they are, and which is resolved and which is still ongoing. If you'd like it for December the 15th, I could have it ready. I was going to try to have it ready for the 1st of January to give a full-on one-year report. And going forward, I could certainly do them per month if that's what council's wish is.
I just, I'll put my 2 cents. I don't think you have to do the report till the end of December is finished, but it would be nice to have a monthly report and just how many issues you're having.
Just again, through you, Mayor Lobo. So are we getting 2 reports a month from you, Daryl, or 1?
So that'll be 2 separate reports, and I'll do this building summary report as I presented today, and then I will have a bylaw summary report presented to you as well.
And that would be in the middle of the month.
No.
No, it would come at the 1st of the month if that's council's wish. I think it would just be 2 reports at this meeting.
Oh, I see. So you will just give us one. You will just appear once a month with 2 different reports.
Correct. Once a month with 2 different reports, or as needed by council for council meetings. I will be on the screen.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I mean, this would respond to your question that we hear. In past, Daryl has sometimes several reports that are going to close session because they deal with individuals and that type of stuff. So we do hear quite a bit about folks. Daryl, I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
I noticed that demolitions have been for 2022 were higher than any other year or any of the past 3 years. I'm just wondering, is that for old barns and that type of stuff, or you get demolition purposes and permits for other things?
I think a lot of the demolition permits were we've had quite a few. I classify them in the single family dwellings or cottages as well. We've had a few cottages tore down along the lake shore this year, like Rice Lake, and so they have to apply for a demolition permit first before they can reconstruct a new single family dwelling. So they're 2 separate permits. So that added quite a few to them.
Is it required that barns be handled that way too?
Barns are any kind of they call them farm structure buildings in the building code are exempt from a demolition permit. So a barn structure does not require a demolition permit.
I was hoping we'd be able to maybe offer them a little bit less expensive permit to encourage some of the ones that are should be falling down maybe, but we can't even do that, I guess.
Yeah. We're mandated by the building code to not issue demolition permits for barns.
Okay. we should be encouraging that, and I don't know how we do that, because some of them are, not what they're pointing out, but they're derelict, and someone could get hurt, I guess, we should don't have to stay off of other people's property, but. And my second comment is regarding the secondary dwellings. I see we've had a big increase in that in the past year. I think it was up to 8 or 10, and I don't have the figures in front of me. That was much higher than the other years, and that's good work on your behalf, and we certainly encourage that. And we hope to see a lot more in 2023 too.
Yeah, for sure. We're seeing quite a few more secondary dwellings. I think they're getting a little bit more. They came into the zoning bylaw, I believe in 2019, 2020, somewhere around that in our 2019 bylaw. So as the years have progressed here, we're starting to see a few more of them come in, whether it's inside the dwelling themselves as a renovation, the existing dwelling, or whether it's in a separate accessory structure with an apartment on the side of it. That's the two ones that we're seeing fairly heavy. So.
And my final thought, my question, Daryl, I don't know if it's fair or not, because as I look through Bill 23, it gets more and more difficult, but I did see we brought in about $177,000 worth of development fees in 2022. And I'm just wondering with the new proposed Bill 23 and how it would affect that figure of $170,000.
Well, I think as I read through it, yeah, you're right. It does get a little bit more confusing. I think Jennifer has a really good report coming up with Bill 23. Explaining some stuff. As far as what the building permit bringing in development charges, that does fluctuate every year anyways, because it depends on how many dwellings are built, new single family dwellings, and it depends on the lot they're built on. Some lots have development charges because we take development charges at severance time. So some lots have, pretty well, if they're severed the same year and built on the same year, the building department doesn't take any development charges for that building permit. If they're severed back 10 years ago and they're built on this year, we have to take the difference from what the development charges were back in that day to what they are now, and we subtract that off. So, I mean, just for an example, if you go back to 2021, there was more dwellings built. They were, some of them are Glens of Antrim that never had any development fees paid on them at subdivision creation time. So we were just a little bit over 360,000 in 2021, and we're at 177,000 in 2022. So it fluctuates depending on the lots, depending on if they're new single family dwellings and where they're built. So it's going to fluctuate anyways, whether it's Bill 23 or not. And I believe Bill 23 for development charges on single family dwellings doesn't apply. They're not exempt, right? They're just the affordable residential units, and we don't have anybody building affordability homes in our municipality. So they won't, they'll still apply to here as far as single family dwellings go.
Thank you, Daryl. Any further questions for Daryl's report? Seeing, and Greg, you have any?
Nope.
Okay. So then, I'll read the motion. Be resolved that the Council of Township of Elmwood receive and file the report from Daryl Hall, CDO, MDEO, planning assistant regarding building permit summary for November 2022. Can I have a mover or second to that, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion carried. Thanks, Daryl.
Thanks, Council.
Next, we have report number 10-1 from the Treasury Department, report from the building treasurer dated December 1st, 2022, regarding the 2023 cost of living allowance. Nicole, you were here today? I saw you already, so I know you're here. Are you ready?
Thank you, Mayor Logal and Council. I am ready.
Go ahead, please.
So I just, I I think my report has most of the information that council needs. However, I just wanted to mention that I think it was a couple months ago that a previous council was reviewing all of our HR policies, and this was an item that we did have some discussion over as we were looking for some direction, knowing that the CPI has been running quite high. So our inflation over the last 2 years has just continued to increase. We did have some discussions around the whole idea of banking. That was something that council, some of council members did express some opinion on that, as far as not wanting to have that bank used to bring us up to, like, if we were putting in place a cap, if we were in a year where it was under that 1%, bringing it up to the cap didn't seem reasonable. So you'll notice that when I drafted this, we actually have put something in place that says if we were going to pull from the bank, we would never bring it up further than the 1%. If it was below 1, and that would be the only time that we would bring anything out of the bank. So the bank could continue to grow, but we would not pull from it if it was under that 1%. Staff had also discussed potentially having as much as a 4% cap, after listening to discussion with previous council, as well as going back and asking for an update from the other municipalities. We were finding that anyone that was looking at their rates coming up into 2023, based on the past year's inflation, was looking at a 3% increase for their staff. However, as I say, I think there's some consistency with keeping still looking at that annual rate of inflation. So if we were to run in between, say, 2 and 3%, if it was at 2.5, then 2.5 would be what it is. The 3% would only come into play if there was something over and above that. So I hope that clarifies anything, and I would be open to any further questions that council has.
Thank you, Nicole. Any questions from council? Councilor Nicholas.
To you, Mayor Lowell, I just want to say I read it and I like it. I think it's a great proposal, and it actually saves the council, saves the municipality some money in the long run. So I think it's a great idea, and we should be doing more things like that. Great stuff.
Thank you. Councilor.
Through you, Mayor Local, CAO Gilmore. So when I was looking to have more context, I looked at section 3 in the statement and policy and procedure finder, and I just have a couple of questions about 2 things I saw in there. One was the pay increase planning worksheets, and I love when there's planning done. So I'm wondering if that's something that's in use. And the other was that the pay range structure that is in there was only till 2020. So I'm wondering if there is an update for current years.
First, the plan sheet, they've never really been used in the past, I must say. We will be implementing them this year. That's why we want to get this policy book updated and approved. And we'll also be updating, when we bring back budget time, the pay range.
Sorry.
So yes, we will bring it all back.
And we'll see that pay range then as part of budget discussions.
Any questions? Councilor O'Neill.
Just to follow up on that, how is that pay range grid determined?
We've been working with that same grid for, I don't remember when we did it. It was quite a few years. So none of the staff here created it. We're working with it. So it can be up for review. A comparison to townships of our size for sure can be done. I'm trying to think back when it was done.
2016 is when it says.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I thought it might have been a little bit after that, but I can't remember. I think our previous CAO was somewhat.
I think that's a good point. We probably should be taking a look at it, see where we are and where we want to go from. Nicole, I thought it was I agree with you. Work that is well repaired and taken a lot of thought, and you supplied a lot of information, background information, not with your decision, so, or your recommendation, I should say. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Greg has his hand up.
Councilor Booth.
Through you, your worship, a couple of questions for Nicole. Nicole, you mentioned you talked to other municipalities. So around us, the other 6, I guess, how many of them have COLA and how many don't? Do they all have COLA?
So through you, Mayor, everyone has a cost of living increase. It's a matter of how it is calculated. So some of our neighboring municipalities have unions, and therefore their COLA is determined during their union contract. So you'll note in my report, I've mentioned that some had their COLAs determined in, say, 2020 or 2021, when the rates were a lot lower. Those union agreements tend to be 2, 3, and 4 years out looking. So during that process, they are already doing a smoothing. Places like the county and a couple of the other municipalities review their COLA on a annual basis. Like I mentioned in my report, the county uses a number of factors because they have more than one union. They look at more than one union when they're establishing rates for office and management staff. They look at market rates, a number of other things. So in answer to your question, yes, everybody has it. It's a matter of how they calculate it and how it's determined.
So I guess just for clarification, if you're unionized and you signed a contract, say for 3 years, and it was 2, 2, and 2, then they're getting 6% over 3 years, right? There's no COLA built into that. It is whatever they sign for their raise then, right?
That would be correct, but all of those municipalities would still have a pay grid. So that would change the pay grid, but they would still potentially move within steps of that grid. And that's common among all municipalities. Yeah. So normally they're a 4 or 5 step program. Ours is a 5-step. Once you get to that 5th step, there are no further increases for performance per se. You would only be eligible to get your cost of living increase on an annual basis.
Yeah, the steps to me is something totally separate from COLA. That is something that's different, right? Every place that I've worked in, they have progression steps with the years. I guess what I'm getting at is I know Councillor Ainsworth, you mentioned that it saves us money. It doesn't really save us money. Basically, what this is doing is it's capping it at 3 and it's just moving it to the next years. You're still paying. You're still going to pay, if the cost of living this year was 6%, you're still going to end up paying 6. You'll pay 3 this year and 3 next year, or that bank will keep going. So we don't really save any money. What it does is it smooths it out so that we don't get the 6 or 7% spike and then maybe down to nothing, right? I guess what I'm after is, I think the town in the future has to look at, are we better to be telling or signing with our employees or council making a decision that we're going to look at doing what other places do, which is saying, you know, we will give 3, 3, and 3 instead of living by the cost of this COLA, because the way we calculate it, Nicole, is different than other places calculate it. I know in OMERS, the Ontario Municipal Employees, what they do is they actually take the CPI index from this, they start in November to October. They take what last year's CPI index was and they subtract it from this year's, and then they take the average of all the months instead of just waiting for October. October could be a high or low number. What OMERS does is they look at the percentage of change and they actually take an average of that. So I just think maybe in the future, we need to look at this not so close to when it comes time to COLA time, is that maybe in February or March, council should take a look at this to decide, are we better to look at something else other than the COLA and go to you know, a 1 or 2 year thing where we say, this is what we're going to give, or are we going to continue this way? That's just my comments. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Further comments, questions? Okay, I will read the motion. Being resolved that the Council of the Township of Allen received a report from the Treasury dated December 1st, 2022 regarding the 2023 cost of living adjustment, COLA, and further that Council directs staff to amend the pay administration policy HR 3.0 ON section 701 paragraph E to read. A, cost of living adjustment. The Township of Allen shall include a cost of living adjustment, COLA, effective January 1st of each year, and it shall be calculated using the CPI. For the annual increase, the CPI, which is the yearly inflation rate from October in the current year, is to be used and in place for the effective date in the next year. The COLA amount shall never be negative. COLA will be capped at 3%. If the CPI, the yearly inflation rate from October in the current year, is over 3%, the remaining percentage will be carried forward in a bank. For example, the CPI from October is 5.2%. The carryover would be 2.2% to be added into the COLA bank. Any percent above the 3% COLA will continue to be banked and carried forward annually. The COLA bank can be drawn upon in any year where the CPI is below 1% to bring the COLA to a maximum of 1% in that year. For example, if the CPI yearly percent in October is 0.4 and there is a 2.2 in the bank, 0.6 can be drawn to give a 1% COLA increase, leaving 1.6 in the bank to be carried forward. Annual COLA increases are to be brought to council for final approval. Would I have moved and seconded? Moved by Councilor Ainsworth. Seconded.
I'm just wanting to know if at this time we can change, just going with what Councilor Booth said, could we bring it back in February to look at a different rate of calculation? Could that be added to what the local is saying now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so it would be an amendment to the motion, so you would amend it saying that that staff bring back a report in February for council review on an alternative COLA adjustment.
And should we do that in February, or should we wait till after the budget? Just wondering.
That's what the council, you want to ask COLA.
Yeah, Cole, is that, can we wait till March, or can we do that all in February?
Through you, Mayor, some of the speaking has been a little bit garbled, but I'm assuming you're asking to leave the motion, although adding in that in February or March that we would bring the policy back for further review.
That's correct.
That would be fine.
Would you prefer February, March?
If we brought it back in February, it would allow us, if there's any changes, to review the impact on the budget. However, if we are changing it now, it shouldn't impact anything till we get to the 2024 budget. So really, it's council's choice.
I guess I was thinking that we were going to leave for 2023, so we could leave it and get the increase in 2020, in January 2023, and then look at it for 2024.
Yes, the different rate calculation.
Yes. So on February, March, it doesn't matter. It's probably just good to leave till March. Is that okay with you, Director Mayor?
Yes.
Is that okay with the mover? Okay.
Sorry.
Absolute.
Mayor Vogel, I'm sorry. Councillor Booth has had his hand up.
Oh, I can't see him. Okay. Go ahead, put your hand up.
Through you, your worship, I was only saying February, March, because once the budget is done for this year and then things are a little bit more calmer for Nicole, then we could look at it just so that we're not rushed come in the fall again, where we're rushing around looking at the COLA, that we can take a look at it 6 months in advance. So whenever it's better for Nicole, which is probably after budget is done and everything, then we could look at how other people calculate it.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody else agree with that? Then we'll call the vote. Moved by Councilor Ainsworth and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stoller. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to number 11.
Yeah.
And this is the administrative report. Wait a minute.
Sorry, 10.2.
I'm sorry, we have one more. Yeah, we have one more, Nicole, so you can't get away that easy. 10.2 is report from Nicole H. Denham, Treasurer, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding the debenture bylaw 130/2022 for the Centerton Public Works Building. Go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you, Mayor Vogel. So there's only a couple things that aren't in my report that I just wanted to add. You will see in the attachments that were provided that we did get the interest rate, which is 4.39%. So the cost of borrowing has actually gone down since we last looked at it in June. Originally, we were looking at a 4.63%. So the original cost of borrowing had been approximately $85,198.03 per year, and that has now been brought down to $80,061.23. So that's the average per month. Initially, when we looked at it, we were looking at it being approximately 2.65% of the levy. So we've actually brought that percentage of cost to the levy down.
How many dollars for that again? This is dollars.
Sorry, Mayor Local, I can't hear.
Okay, I'll speak louder. Is that better?
That's better.
Okay, I'm just wondering, how many dollars were you talking about annually, the annual savings? Was that by the month or was that?
So annually, it was originally 2.56 million per year. It's now 2.4 million per year.
Okay. That's quite a difference.
Sorry, I said per year. Let me just look. That's total, sorry, that's total cost of borrowing.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Noble, to our treasurer. Is that interest rate locked in for the full 30 years then, or is that ever renegotiated or reset?
Through you, Mayor Logal, the interest rate is set. It does not change. We are locked in. Our payments will be the same every month from now through that full 30 years. And that's one of the advantages of doing the lending through the Infrastructure Ontario.
Okay. And to follow up, how is this new monthly expense going to be handled in the budget? Like, where is it coming from?
Through you, Mayor Logal, this will actually show in the Public Works budget. So that is where you will see it. If I am correct, technically any debenture amounts normally don't show as a budget item, but we do show it so that we can see the impact on the levy. So it will be in the Public Works.
Councilor Neil?
And just a curious question, this one, what exactly is a debenture? Because it says that we're going to pay the printing costs and the authorized denominations, like what is that?
So really, for all intensive purposes, you're looking at a loan. Debentures aren't something normally that in the private industry you would see. This is something that is available to us because we are government. I can probably send you some literature on it. It's not something that's easy even for me to explain. One of the things that you will see that isn't common if we were doing a loan. Normally what you would see is interest rates that can potentially change and payments that will change. Say you have like a 5-year term, even though it's a over a 30-year period. That doesn't happen with the debenture. The total payment will be the same year over year, and your principal and interest change during that period. So that would be the biggest difference.
Well, I guess it's almost like a mortgage, except that a mortgage you can, every term you can play with it a little bit, perhaps, or not play with it, but change it a little bit. But in the debenture, you're committed for the total time period, and you know exactly what's coming. Is that correct?
That's a good summary. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That answer your question, your Captain? Any further questions or comments? I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Albert Cullen received the report from the Treasurer dated December 1st, 2022 regarding the debenture bylaw 130-2022 for Centerton Public Works Building, and further that Council approved bylaw 130-2022, and further that the Council direct the clerk and mayor to sign bylaw 130-2022. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by. You want to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
I appreciate that. Okay. Further comments and discussions? All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, we're going to thank you, Pat. Or Nicole. Thanks, Nicole. Okay, next we're going to move on to administration. And our first report is from Pat Kemp, clerk, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding the meeting schedule. Pat, you want to comment?
Just make sure your microphone's in front.
Mr. Mayor. So the only change on the schedule is we were going to have a special meeting this morning, but due to time constraints, we pushed that ahead into December the 20th at 12:30. I know council has asked us to look at when we would hold meetings. We did do a survey to the other municipalities. I'm waiting to hear back from 2 for the CAO can prepare his report. And I just thought it was important because we have a number of meetings coming up that council be made aware of the schedule. So once council decides to change the meeting times, then we'd have to pass an amendment to the procedure bylaw. And then we would go forward and let the public know whatever the new meeting times are. So not trying to circumvent anybody. I just thought it was important to get your meeting schedule out there so that you're very busy people, you know, and as well, the public knows as well.
Thank you, Pat. And I appreciate it too. You're getting kind of organized.
Right.
Any comments or questions from council? Councilor O'Neill?
I know we talked about the procedural bylaw, and that we're going to need to revise it. Are we still hoping for February? I see you went to the end of January. Is that because we're still hoping to see changes by February?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we are hoping for February. One of the issues too is because of planning, we have to give 30 days notice before we send out our agenda for planning. So that's why I thought if I went to the end of January.
Okay.
Thank you, Pat. Any further discussions, Greg? You okay?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. I'll read the motion. Be resolved that the report from Pat Kemp, clerk, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding the meeting schedule of November, December 2022, and January 2023 be received and filed. And further that the council concur with the meeting schedule 2022-12-01 PK meeting schedule November, December, and January. Do I have a motion to do that? Moved by Mary Catherine O'Neill, seconded by
Sorry, just to make sure I understand what I'm moving. I believe that's also with the amendment for the December 20th,
Yes,
to be clear.
You're still not moving then?
I am moving it with, just to make sure that was noted.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Schober. Any further discussion? All in favor? The motion is carried. Next, we have a report from Pat Kemp, clerk, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding the alternate member to attend county council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the mayor may be aware that Northumberland County Council does allow for an alternate member to sit in the event that he can't attend the county council meeting. And in order to do so, there are a number of requirements. One being that council has to pass a resolution to appoint whatever member you decide to be the alternate member. And then that has to occur prior to the county issuing the oath of office to the new county council members. The alternate would fill in for the mayor. Either the CEO or myself would have to let the county aware who the alternate member is. And if there was a meeting coming up that the mayor couldn't attend, we'd have to let them know in advance when the alternate would be coming. Can't appoint more than one alternate. There's only one alternate allowed. And the position would be paid similar to the mayor, would be paid by the county for any meetings attended. So there's no financial impact on our municipality. The alternate member would not be allowed to sit on the standing committee. And yeah. So council has the option if they choose to do so.
Councilor O'Neill.
Well, I'd like to move that we appoint Deputy Mayor Stover to be the alternate member at Northumberland County.
I'll second that.
Discussion, okay, we moved by Councillor O'Neill and seconded by Councillor Booth. Any further discussion? I'll read the motion. Be resolved, the Council of Township of Allen Cullen received a report from the clerk dated December 1st, 2023 regarding appointing an alternate member to attend county council in the absence of the mayor. And further, that council decided that Deputy Mayor Stover be named as the alternate. And further, that the clerk advised the county of Northumberland that Deputy Mayor Stover is the alternate member for the Township of Allen Cullen. All in favor?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Okay, moving right along. And this is an amendment to the agenda. We have a report from Jennifer Curran, the senior planner, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding Bill 23, the More Homes Built Basket Act, 2022. Jennifer, you're there?
Through you, Mayor Logo. Yes, I am here.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
As requested by council at the last municipal planning meeting last week, a request was made for a report to be brought to council on Bill 23. And it's a rather extensive bill with considerable implications for all municipalities in Ontario. At the time, council requested that I prepare the report. The province was still indicating that they were soliciting comments on it. Since that time, they approved the legislation and the changes. Some changes have come into effect immediately. Other changes will come into effect once the province has prepared the regulations for the changes to the legislation. In reviewing, it affects, I believe it's 9 different, I think it's 9 different acts within the, yes, it's 9 different provincial acts. The most significant acts that I think are going to impact our municipality is the changes to the Development Charges Act and the changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. As I outlined in the memo, my report, changes to the Conservation Authority Act. Right now, the municipality enters into an agreement with the Lower Trent Conservation, and they provide us with advisory comments on matters relating to natural heritage features. They help us with the peer reviews of environmental impact studies. They provide comments they help us scope the terms of reference for the required environmental impact studies. They provide advice on natural heritage, which are wetlands, environmental features. And it would appear that under the changes that those agreements will no longer be permitted. However, the devil's in the details because the regulations haven't been published. So if it's established in the regulations that this section won't pertain to X, Y, and Z, then we may be able to. But right now, as it stands, it appears that it's the province's intention not to permit the conservation authorities to provide comments on anything other than natural hazards, floodplains, and flooding, which is a significant departure from our relationship with the Conservation Authority at this time. As I mentioned, right now, we rely on them to provide us with environmental advice with respect to heritage features and stormwater management and all of that type of thing. Their scope would be severely limited. Now, when they provide us with recommendations and advice now on those issues, it is advisory advice. Municipality can opt to accept their recommendations, or we can look at it and say, look, I don't think in this case it is reasonable. So it's advisory comments that we're receiving right now. The other significant change is changes to the Development Charges Act. We've already seen one change come through today. The changes to the Development Charges Act no longer allow municipalities to charge for have a community housing charge. And the Northumberland County Development Charge contains a I believe it's a $783 component for community housing. And that has been removed from their development charge. So we got the notice today that portion of the county development charge has been removed. But the Development Charges Act also, the changes also call for a phase in of when you adopt a new bylaw, if it's higher, the increased bylaw or the increased amount has to be phased in over 5 years, starting with 80%. So in the first year, you'd only be collecting 80% of your total development charge. The second year, 85, and up until, excuse me, in year 5, you would be collecting 100% of the updated development charge or the increased development charge. And depending on the increase in your development charge, there is the potential for the amount of your development charge that you're collecting to actually be lower than what was previously collected by a municipality. If you're currently collecting $10,000 and your new justifiable charge is $12,000, then you would only be able to collect 80% of the $12,000, which is slightly less than the $10,000 that you're collecting now. At least that's my understanding of the legislation, and I confirmed that with the county planner who spoke to the county solicitor and the county treasurer, and that's how they're interpreting that section. So that will have some impact on the municipality. You want to make sure that your increased development charge will not result in you collecting a charge that's lower than you're already collecting. So hopefully, well, not hopefully, presumably your justifiable increased development charge will be higher than 80% of your existing charge. If it's not higher than 80% of the existing charge and you're going to be recouping less, municipalities may want to consider whether they want to pass into a development charge. I mean, and it is phased in, so it would presumably only be the first year or so that you would actually be collecting less. So in the Planning Act, there are some changes. One of the changes is appeals to severances and minor variances. No longer are third-party appeals to severances and minor variances going to be permitted. Originally, there was the original proposal was to also include zoning bylaws and plans of subdivision in that, but I believe that was removed. There's no longer a public meeting requirement for a plan of subdivision application for draft plan approval. However, that doesn't mean a municipality can't hold a public meeting. And they're also soliciting comments through written correspondence. But it is possible that a municipality, if they wanted to, they could still host a public meeting. It's just no longer a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. They've introduced a category of housing called attainable housing, but it hasn't yet been defined. So the impact of that is not known. As of right, zoning is permitted on parcels of land, parcels of urban land. So that is land that's serviced by municipal water and municipal sanitary sewer services. That doesn't impact us because we don't have any fully serviced properties, but we also already permit up to 3 because we permit in most zones, we permit a main dwelling and 2 accessory dwellings, 1 or secondary dwellings, 1 within the existing dwelling and 1 within an ancillary building. Parkland. This portion doesn't really impact us. The Planning Act allows for municipality, as a blanket rule, allows municipalities to take 5% of either the value of the land or of the actual land when considering applications for subdivisions, and it's a 5%. However, the Planning Act also contains provisions where municipalities can establish alternate parkland contribution rates in their official plan. It's mostly common in big cities where they're dealing with multi-story buildings and high rises and everything, where they may establish a rate of 15% of cash in lieu of parkland or 15% parkland contribution, but the municipality doesn't. So we don't have any impacts on this, because with these changes, they have capped the maximum value or the maximum of land that can be conveyed or paid in cash in lieu at 10% of the value of the land or the area of the land for sites less than 5 hectares, and 15% for areas that are greater than 5 hectares. But as I said, we don't have alternate parkland in our official plan. We accept the 5% that's established in the Planning Act. So those are the general changes that I thought were most significant to our particular municipality. There are, in the background information and in other stuff that I've read, there are significant changes for other municipalities. There are changes to the Heritage Act that require, there are basically 2 categories under the Heritage Act. You've got your heritage designated buildings, and then municipalities also often have a list of buildings with the potential to be designated under the Heritage Act. And if an application for a building permit is received for one of the listed properties, for demolition or alteration to it, the amount of time that the municipality has to deal with the building permit application is increased. I believe it's to 90 days to allow them time to designate the property if the municipality wants to do so. With these changes, all of those properties on the list that have been identified as potential have to be either designated or removed from the list within 2 years, which isn't a problem for us, but for municipalities like Cobourg and Port Hope, they have pretty extensive lists, and it's a bit of a process to go through. So those are the most significant impacts I felt for our municipality. So if you have any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Questions from council? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Stover.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, for that detailed report. Very well done. Would you, looking into the crystal ball, see what a financial impact this would have on our municipality, or would that be more of a question for Nicole?
Through you, Mayor Logal, it's really difficult to say. The development charges, I can't recall what the development, I know that there was a substantial recommended development charge increase. I believe it was for the water system in Grafton. So even if we accepted 80% of the new increased rate, it will be higher than what we're currently collecting for water in Grafton. I can't remember whether the base rate was significantly higher or not. That is, I imagine it was probably higher than 80%, but I really can't recall about that one. And with respect to the changes to the Conservation Authorities Act and there may be a need to retain an environmental consultant for the review of applications that have environmental impact studies and that sort of thing. But we could come up with a mechanism. I believe we can come up with a mechanism whereby the applicant will be responsible for covering those costs. In the past, the municipalities entered into development agreements with people who have submitted applications. I don't think we'd have to do that. I think what we could do is change our fee schedule such that if an application requires the submission of an environmental impact study, they're required to submit a deposit of $2,000 to offset the costs associated with the review of that document. And again, with all development deposits, anything that's not used is returned to the applicant upon completion of the application. So there are some implications, basically, because, oh, I'm sorry, the shortfall in development charges, if there is a shortfall in development charges, then the municipality as a whole, so existing tax base, will have to cover all of those, any costs that aren't recouped for development charges. The legislation is very much biased towards developers. It's going away from the principle of development pays for the cost of development, and putting more onus on the existing tax base to cover the shortfalls that will be recouped. Now, urban municipalities, I think, are going to see more implications, because the changes to the Development Charges Act does allow, or does require, that affordable housing and attainable housing be exempt from development charges. But we don't get applications for affordable housing here because we don't have the servicing that's generally required. So if you were if we were a larger municipality and we saw an application for 20 affordable housing units or attainable housing units, then that could be a significant loss in revenue that the existing tax base would have to make up to cover those costs associated with that development, be that water mains, sewers, roads, improvements even to the capital infrastructure of your libraries and all that sort of thing. So I think there will be some implications on it. I think they're not going to be as significant perhaps for our municipality, because we won't see as much of the clawback because we don't get applications for affordable housing here.
Thanks so much. That was great.
Go ahead.
Just to make council aware, we do, Nicole has invited Bob Clark, who is the consultant that did our development charges study, for our next meeting on December 15th. So we'll be able to answer some of those questions and present his report on what the proposed.
Any other further questions? At the moment, Jennifer, that was a very well put together report. We looked at an awful lot of different pieces of paper to come up with that. Very well. Does this affect development subdivisions as well, or as much as currently does? I guess what I'm asking is, when a developer comes and needs those reports that are done by the Conservation Authority, that's already paid by the developer, is it not?
Through you, Mayor Logal, if I'm understanding correctly, the developer, when the developer submits an application right now, we'll take an average subdivision in Grafton will be accompanied by a geotechnical report, an environmental impact study, a stormwater management plan, may have a traffic brief, we'll have some functional servicing report. And within that suite of studies, the Conservation Authority right now reviews the stormwater management report from a quantity perspective, a quality perspective, the impact on downstream receiving bodies, and they review the environmental impact study. And they pay when an application for subdivision is submitted, the applicant, I'm just looking up at my board here, the applicant's required to pay a charge, a draft plan application for a Conservation Authority is about between, if it technical review of studies, $5,200. And that's under our agreement that we have with the Conservation Authority. If we're not able to enter into that agreement with the Conservation Authority, that $5,200, the Conservation Authority obviously doesn't get it, but we're going to our fee bylaw will have to be changed so that we can hire a consultant that can review those studies on behalf of us.
Okay. And for individual lots, the town, or the Conservation Authority does charge us for each individual one of those. And we take the recommendations and we follow them or we don't follow them. We still pay for that. I guess that passed on to the applicant then too.
Yes, for like an individual severance, the fee that we pay, the fee that the applicant pays to the Conservation Authority is $420. And that sometimes if there are environmental issues or constraints with the property prior to the application being submitted, we recommend that they do a pre-consultation with the Conservation Authority. If a site visit is required, the Conservation Authority charges a fee for them to do the site visit, and then they take that fee off of their $420 that's submitted if they submit an application. And right now, the Conservation Authority, so the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe requires the completion of a hydrologic evaluation for all development within 120 meters of a key hydrologic feature. If we have questions about whether something is considered a key hydrologic feature and the applicant requires a Lower Trent Conservation site visit, they contact the Conservation Authority and they do a site visit. If it's determined that an EIS or a hydrologic evaluation is required, the Conservation Authority scopes the terms of reference. So they provide the parameters for the study that's required. And then the applicant retains a consultant to do the study. And then once the study's done, the Conservation Authority looks at the study and says, yep, or we think this piece of information is missing. So that's the general relationship that we have right now. And with these changes, it's unknown how this will continue in the future.
But someone will still be responsible to make sure that property can be severed or building permits granted.
Yes, through you, Mayor Logal. It's the municipality has a responsibility. All planning decisions have to be consistent with the provincial policy statement. And the provincial policy statement requires the protection of natural heritage features, which are wetlands, that sort of thing. The growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe requires protection of key hydrologic features. We have been relying on the Conservation Authority to provide us with advice regarding those features. And if we can't have a relationship with the Conservation Authority to provide us with advice on those types of features, we'll have to have an alternate relationship, which is probably either a consultant or whether municipalities go together and get something. There'll have to be some sort of arrangement made so that we can obtain the appropriate advice for those environmental concerns.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Your Catherine?
Through you, Mayor Local, to our senior planner. Thank you for getting that together and allowing us to know the specifics to our municipality. And it is somewhat comforting to know that we're going to be impacted less than other municipalities. This isn't to our senior planner. This is just a general comment about how quickly that legislation was passed and the impact on democracy in general, that that people weren't given the opportunity and the timing. Our council wasn't even in place to be able to respond correctly. Or fully. So I have some concerns about the democratic process being circumvented here.
Thank you, Mayor Catherine. Greg, do you have any comments?
No. Mary Catherine said it all.
Okay. I guess the recommendation before I read that, it does mention we send this to our MPP, David Stevens. Did we go with any other people? Go ahead,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you could send it to the premier.
Yeah.
You could make the legislation that it impacts, we could copy it to all of those ministers. If council chooses, we could also circulate it to all municipalities in the province.
or in the county. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
It's fairly easy now with electronic.
Yeah.
Instead of pushing the button, so.
I guess I would certainly, hopefully send it to the premier as well as the elected ministers. And at least to the county and the member municipalities. I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that the report from Jennifer Curran, senior planner, dated December 1st, 2022, regarding Bill 23 to receive and further that the
Here's the actual resolution.
okay.
Yeah.
I've got an amendment. Whereas the province of Ontario passed Bill 23, more on Bill Faster Act, and the companies containing changes to numerous provincial acts with the objective of improving home construction on November 28, 2022. Whereas the Bill 23 More Homes Build Faster Act contains numerous provisions impacting development approval process, particularly with respect to the collection of development charges and the relationship between the township and the conservation authorities. Now, therefore, be resolved that while the council for the township of Walden generally supports many of the revisions to provincial legislation, the township of Walden respectfully objects to scaling back the role of conservation authorities without a specific plan in place as to how their interests and role will be addressed, and without time to ensure that alternate arrangements can be made to fill the void, left by restricting the conservation authority's mandate to the natural hazards and flooding hazards. The township relies on Lower Trent Conservation Authority. I just wonder if we should add that Lower Trent and Anaraska Conservation Authority to provide advisory comments on matters related to environmental impact studies, natural heritage features, stormwater management, and other environmental issues. And the changes to the Development Charge Act that require a phase-in of justifiable increases to development charges. By requiring development charges to be phased in over 5 years, the municipality will lose out on essential income intended to cover capital costs associated with development. The loss in revenue will have to be recouped through the increases in taxation or user fees. Growth-related capital costs will no longer be covered by those that benefit from growth. Oh. Do I have a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover. Seconded by Councilor O'Neill. Further discussion? Councilor O'Neill.
Would it be possible to add a third point about our concerns with the lack of opportunity to give feedback and the timing of this?
I think that would be appropriate. Deputy Mayor Stover, you the mover to accept that.
I did accept that amendment first.
Okay. We have mover and second, moved by second, Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor O'Neill. Further discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Carry. And we'll be sending that to people who suggested. Perfect. Okay, we've been out for 2 hours. Would you like to take a 5-minute break?
Sorry, how many items do we have left?
Well, we've got probably another 20 minutes before we get to close. So I need to get to 10 minutes.
We're gonna need a motion to recess.
Can I get a motion? By Deputy Mayor Stover, Councilor, and second by Councilor Ainsworth, all in favor? Carry. Greg, we'll be back in about 10 minutes.
Okay,
Gotta wait until somebody listening in to this.
All right,
Okay, we're gonna bring the meeting back to order. Did I be moving and seconded? Moved by Councilor Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? That's carried. Next, we're going into communications. And we're going to tie them all together. The first one is correspondence from the Joint Western Northumberland Physician Recruitment and Retention Service Board dated November 14, 2022 regarding hiring of Linda Kay as physician recruitment consultant. The second one is the Campbellford Memorial Hospital dated November 16, 2022 regarding congratulations on recent elections. The third one is AMO Communications dated November 17, 2022 regarding the AMO watch file, and the AMO Communications dated November 24, 2022 regarding AMO watch file. I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that the following correspondence be received and filed. The Joint Western Northumberland Physician Recruitment and Retention Service Board dated November 14, 2022 regarding hiring of Linda Kay as physician recruitment consultant. The Campbellford Memorial Hospital dated November 16, 2022 regarding congratulations on your recent election. The AMO Communications dated November 17, 2022 regarding the AMO watch file, and the AMO Communications dated November 24, 2022 regarding the AMO watch file. Did I have a mover to receive and file those 4 letters? Moved by Councilor Ainsworth. Seconded by just wondered, are you back, Ray?
yeah,
Can you second that? Thank you.
yes, I second it.
I just have one comment. Campbell Memorial Hospital sent me an invite, and I think they were got a copy of that. But I responded to them and got some dates that I could go. I think the reason I did that is because there's a fair bit of our township is covered in Campbell Memorial Hospital, and I think it's appropriate that we do show our support there. So I just let you know I've done that. Any other further comments? Oh, go ahead.
The other comment I have is for the Joint West Northumberland Physician Recruitment. And I understand this is dealing with the hiring of McKay, but I would at some point like to discuss this whole program of physician recruitment and if the model is working and if a different model would work better for us.
Okay. All in favor? The motion is carried. Now we're going into bylaws. The first one is bylaw 14-1, bylaw 132.022, being a bylaw to authorize the signing and execution of an agreement with Infrastructure Ontario for a debenture bylaw for capital works of the Centerton Public Works Facility Addition. Be resolved that bylaw number 130/2022, being a bylaw to authorize the signing and execution of an agreement with Infrastructure Ontario for a debenture bylaw for capital works of the Centerton Public Works Facility Addition be read and deemed to be passed this first day of December 2022. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councilor Booth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Further discussion? All in favor? That motion is carried. Next, we have bylaw number 14, or pardon me, number 14, bylaw 131-2022, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement between the Township of Allen McCullum and EC Digital Solutions for leasing a photocopier for the Public Works Building in Centerton. Be resolved that bylaw number 131-202, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement between the Township of Allen McCullum and ECS Digital Solutions for leasing a photocopier for the Public Works Building in Centerton be read and deemed to be passed this first day of December 2022. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that?
I'll move it.
Moved by Councillor Booth, seconder. Moved by, or seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Further discussion?
Could I ask a question?
You certainly can.
Through you, your worship, maybe to either Nicole or maybe Pat or whatever. So this agreement is, does this fall under the, because it is over a $5,000 purchase. If you look at it over the few years, it's up to $10,000. Is that, do we post that out there as an RFP, or are we already dealing with this company already with our other copiers? Is that's why we've gone with them, or what?
Pat, you got a comment on that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Councillor Booth, we already have this company using the photocopier that's in the administration building. And so that's why we went with this company for Public Works, so that it keeps it all the same if we have any issues.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Further questions? Comments? All in favor? All in favor? Motion
Yes.
carried. The next is the bylaw 132, 2022, being a bylaw to appoint.
Yeah, this is for you,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. This is the appointment bylaw for members of council to the various committees. The other committees, council will be discussing those.
Okay. Yep. A bylaw number 132, 2022, being a bylaw to appoint members of the Township of Allen McCullum Council, boards, committees, and as a representative of related agencies for the term of 2022 to 2026. Be it resolved that the bylaw number 132, 2022, being a bylaw to appoint members of the Township of Allen McCullum Council to boards, committees, and as a representative of related agencies for the term of 2022 to 2026, be read and deemed to be passed this first day of December 2022. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this? Moved by Councilor Ainsworth, seconded by Councilor O'Neill. Any comments or questions?
Just to note for the public, there will be more appointments as needed or in the future, whatever.
Yeah, just for clarification, so this is based on the recommendations that council made at your last meeting.
Yeah.
So,
And the ones we really have to get out are the provincial committees as well as the conservation.
yes, that's correct. And as any violation. They're not going to don't, okay?
All in favor? Motion carried. Announcements and notices of motion. Deputy Mayor Stover is going to start us off today.
Well, I have two things really. I had the honor of attending a resident's funeral on Saturday at St. Mary's Catholic Church. And a lot of residents in the municipality will know Gay Stratford. She was an amazing lady, and it was a great honor for me to attend that funeral and sending her off, and she went off in great style. I'm wearing this red scarf today. Today is World AIDS Day. And I was contacted by Kathy White, who is a social justice coordinator for St. Andrew's United Church. And you will see all along the front of the building's front street of Grafton, there are red scars. And last year, Kathy told me they had 60 scars. This year they have 100. They hope to increase it, and they have knitters from the whole community, all the churches, the community at large. So it might be a bit tough to get some red yarn at this point. So it was. I think it's really important to recognize this day and the ramifications of this disease and the stigma that is around it. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Over. Councilor Mike Ainsworth. You're good. Thank you. Councilor Greg Booth.
Nothing at this time, your worship.
Thank you. Councilor Mary Catherine.
I like how you always use my first name. Anyway, I have two items. The first is that the meet and greet is coming up. Jennifer Steen prepared a wonderful invitation. It has already been circulated, and I've circulated it to different people I knew. But if everyone, staff and counselors could just send that invitation out there and make sure that people are aware, and hopefully we'll get a large attendance. And the second, I'm not even sure if I can do right now because it was something pertaining to something earlier in the agenda, but there was a letter from the county in there regarding Bill 23. And I'm wondering if whether we could direct our mayor to endorse the letter that is from the county, or if that's how that works. I'm not sure.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is being brought up on the same meeting. Councilor in favor of it, then yes, that would not be a problem.
Okay. No, I don't have any problem with endorsing that.
So I move that we have the mayor endorse that at the county council on behalf of all Haldeman Council.
And we could put that in writing, like.
I assume that's what this is.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Rather than bring it to county council, we just endorse it and send it around to. Okay. Anything else, Mary Catherine? Oh, I need a second.
I'll second that.
Oh, seconded by Councilor Booth. All in favor? The motion's carried. Mary Catherine, do you have anything else? I have a couple of things. First of all, I want to recognize our senior staff and anybody else who took us on the road tour of the township, where we saw all of our buildings, our parks, cemeteries, lots of our roads and our bridges. And I think that the council has a much better understanding of some of the issues that they're faced with and we will be faced with during budget time. And I thought it was good preparation. So, Troy, on behalf of you and your staff, thank you very much for doing that. And I'd also, again, like to mention that the old Danforth Road will be closed on Saturday for the Red Tractor festivities. And, or promoted by the Red Tractor. And like last year, I hope we have as good participation. It was very good and busy last year. And we have an additional feature this year where I and members of the Heritage Committee, as well as council and everybody else, will be recognizing the donation made by George and Joan Chalovich. And that is the grillstone that sits out in front of the white building here in the property. And I think that was very good, and that is at 10:30, so if you have a Saturday morning, so if you have an opportunity, if you're here, we'd appreciate you all being there. That's all I have. So we're going to go into closed session. And I'll need a motion to recess to closed session. I'll read the motion that the Council of Township of Allen Colton be recessed to a closed session under section 239-2 to consider personal matters of an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and labor relations or employee negotiations with the CAO clerk and deputy clerk to remain in attendance. And we'll do that at 2:53 p.m. Could I get a mover and second to that motion, please? Moved by Councilor Stover, or Deputy Mayor Stover, and seconded by Councilor Ranger. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you, members of the public. We'll see you in the next meeting.
Here we are.
Okay, closed meeting is finished, and we're going back into regular session of council. I need a mover and a seconder. But first of all, read the resolution. Be resolved that the County of Township of Allen Government reconvene in regular session at 5:07 p.m. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Stover and seconded by Councilor Ainsworth. All in favor? Motion is carried. Approval of the confirming bylaw number 1332022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council session held on Thursday, December 1st, 2022. Be resolved that the bylaw number 1332022, bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular session of council held on December 1st, 2002, be read and deemed passed this first day of December 2022. Could I have a mover and a second for that? Moved by Councilor Ainsworth. Seconded by,
I don't know, I fell asleep. What am I seconding?
Councilor Booth.
I was awake.
okay, moved by, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. All in favor? Motion is carried.
Okay.
And a motion to adjourn. Be resolved that the regular council session of the council of Thursday, December 1st, 2002, be adjourned at 5:09 p.m.
I'm awake again. I'll move.
I second it.
Yeah, he did. He's.
Moved by Councilor O'Neill and seconded by Councilor Gray. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Right.